and we're excited to talk about hybrids today.
And then I know that we are kind of pressed for time. It's only 45 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, do we want to start with questions, Jamil? Does that make more sense? Or did you want to talk a little bit about like your experiences with hybrid events?
Let's go ahead and get started about the things that we have done, and we won't talk very long about those, and then maybe we can continue to talk a little bit more when people have questions, and because that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to get good ideas and answer questions, and so we want this to be mostly dedicated to you guys. I guess I can start if you'd like me to.
Sure.
We've only done one hybrid event, but I'm very familiar with kind of doing like a style where there's people here and there's 2 or 3 different cameras. I'm definitely more on the tech side than I am on any other side. I know that there are a lot of issues and trying to like think things through with hybrids. Ours went extremely well when we first did ours. And I think it was just because we were prepared. We had talked to a lot of people about things coming up. Luckily, the guy that we did, Zach Steele, he also runs Broadleaf. So he's very good with Zoom, which was what I wasn't as strong with. So it went like off with the hitch. In fact, I recorded it, and I usually like to do a lot of production, and I did 0 because it just looked good. He was a very good presenter. What I do is I have a tripod and I use a webcam and I hook it to a computer that's really close to where he's speaking. And this actually has a very, very good microphone on it. And that is one of the biggest problems. Making sure that when people ask questions that they can hear, and they could on this one. And this is not an expensive, I think I paid like $80 for it. It's a podcast webcam, so you don't have to spend a lot of money to do hybrids. In fact, the biggest cost for you will be Zoom webinar. And I tell you should get webinar. It's worth the expense. And you won't have to take as many ibuprofen if you get the webinar. So, all right, well, you go ahead and let's hear about your.
I completely agree about webinar. As much of a pain as it is to pay that cost at the front end. There's so many publishers who, just for safety reasons, do appreciate having webinar as an option. So if that's going to be, what comes between you and that author, definitely have webinar because it's safer. It makes sense. We've been using a laptop, which has been okay as well. We have a smaller space though, so it kind of depends, I think, on the room that you're using. We did find that it was a little bit more difficult when we do some videos with the Lewis Public Library. That's how we kind of have partnered for a lot of our virtual events during the pandemic. So we did try to use one of their event spaces at the library recently for an event. And what we realized a little too late was that the room is a little echoey, and we did do a mic check beforehand. But for whatever reason, because it was a little echoey, Zoom didn't quite pick up, or it picked up the wrong feedback a little bit. It was just a little muffled. And so audio wise, it could have been a little bit smoother. So that is definitely something that you should try in advance if you are going to be in a bigger space, because you might need to invest in a tripod and maybe a different kind of camera. But for the most part, if you're in a smaller event space, we've found that the laptop has been fine as long as you have a webcam on there. Other than that, what we do is we just have a registration page on our website. They can register like they would normally for any kind of in-person event, and then they can choose it up to a point. Like we have about 20 to 30 people that we will let be in person currently, because that's how many we can space out. After that point, we get rid of the option to be in person, but until those seats are filled, we do have the option for them to decide if they would like to be in person or if they would like to be via Zoom. So they just register normally. We send them the Zoom link if they're Zoom. We set it up about half an hour or so before the event begins, just to do a audio and camera check, just to make sure everything's going normally, that our Wi-Fi hasn't decided to just screw up on us. But for the most part, things have gone really smoothly. It's fairly straightforward. It's really just what you would do normally for an in-person event, adding the Zoom on. So we've been pretty fortunate this year. But yeah, any questions so far? Anything? I will say too that if we haven't been doing as many ticketed events this year, just because we do work with the Lewis Public Library. So that's another option. If you do want to do a ticketed event and they want to have a book as part of like a bundle or something, you can also then include that on your website for registration for the Zoom portion, and maybe you can like ship them a book or have shipping on there as well. Has anyone done hybrid with Crowdcast? I have not. Have you, Jamil?
I have not. I don't really know anybody who has. I know that the people who use Crowdcast really like Crowdcast, but I've never heard of anybody using it as a hybrid.
Amanda said that she did it with StreamYard. I am not as familiar with StreamYard. What is the setup for that? Amanda, if you're able to unmute, I'd love to hear. I'm very curious.
Yes, I am outside, so if it's a little breezy, I apologize. But StreamYard basically allows you to stream directly to Facebook or to YouTube. We love it because it's just extra secure. You can kind of really control what comes in and out of the stream. And it feels a bit more like a broadcast studio sort of thing. So we filmed it the same way you would film like a Zoom webinar, where we set up our laptop, but had StreamYard running instead of Zoom webinar. So I think that something like any platform would allow you to work fine as long as you can film it on your laptop. But yeah, StreamYard is our OTP.
Very interesting. I'll have to check that out.
With StreamYard, does it have you noticed that it has any kind of issues with like compressing sound or anything like that? I know that some of those things do. They like compress sound and it makes it wonky if you try to record. But you've never had any. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look into
we didn't have
StreamYard.
any issues when we did that. We did have mics set up for the one main event. We did hybrid because we did a Keith McQuiston event and it was a big room and a big space. But with the mics, it was totally fine.
Yeah.
Have you found that publishers are usually feeling safe when you use StreamYard? Are there any safety issues like with Zoom meeting?
No, we like publicize it as like this is as safe as you can possibly, because we control who shows up on the webinar, and the authors also can't see the comments unless they choose to. So we've never had an issue, but if the comments ever did get funky, like we could get rid of them before the authors ever had to look at them. They can be viewing just a private chat the entire time.
Interesting. And then Carter says, has anyone had issues working with publishers for hybrids? I have been denied for hybrids because they want in-person only. Interesting. I have not run into that problem yet.
I could imagine somebody like David Sedaris wouldn't put up with hybrids. He doesn't like to be recorded. We haven't had any problems with that, but like I'm sure there are some authors out there who are very, very specific about that.
Let's see. Catherine says, oh wait, never mind. Let's see. Crystal says, what exactly does the actual tech setup for a hybrid event look like? Multiple laptops, question mark?
So you don't need multiple. I mean, there was one time I did like this meeting where I actually had 3 cameras at the same time in the same room. So you could see an audience of something. It wasn't a hybrid, by the way. I just keep getting called in for these things because I often know the logistics of this sort of thing. So we had a camera pointed toward like a group of actors, if they were actors. And then we had ourselves being filmed and talking and going back and forth. And we used 3 in Zoom. We did it in Zoom. And there was like 3 different cameras being used. Because you're in the same room, you always have to be, you have to mute everything and only have one channel open to be recording. And like, if it really needs to be at a distance because there is a little bit of a latency that we found out. You can do that if you want to, but you do not need to do that. You can just have one laptop. You really don't even need a laptop. You can just use your phone if you want to record a Zoom. Just make sure that you have it sitting in like a tripod, or you have it sitting to where it can't be bumped, because it will not just shake, it will pick up the sound. So you don't necessarily have to do all of that if you don't want to, but if you do want to, you have that option as well. I would just basically, if you want to record maybe the audience and have a camera on them and then have a camera on the hybrid, you basically just make them a panel on the webinar.
Yeah, I was going to say too, we've really only ever used one laptop. We haven't really needed to use multiple, but our events have been fairly small that have been hybrid. It really hasn't been over 20 or 30 people in the room. So if it got bigger than that, it's hard to say, but as of right now, it's been fine with one.
Somebody here has talked about partnering with the library, and Kirsten said that, and I'll tell you, up until we started to actually have things in the store, we partnered with our libraries. If you can't afford Zoom and you can't afford a webinar, hook up with your libraries, because the libraries all have the full-blown version of Zoom. It's like part of their thing, and they're usually happy to partner with you and do virtual events. And they may do, I mean, depending on where you are, they may be able to do the hybrid and run it for you.
Yeah, they usually have multiple events happening per week, and they're absolute pros in terms of these kinds of things. They have been an absolute godsend for us. They've been total pros, and it makes it a lot easier. Really, really easy. Let's see.
So Lisa Ray says she's talking about the publishers not wanting things to be posted. Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense too. And maybe it's weird because some publishers are like, yeah, we want you to do hybrids. And then the other publishers are like, no, we don't want you to do hybrids. So it's like, what do you want us to do? We just want to have events.
Yeah, exactly. We've had several people who have decided that it's either in person or nothing, which makes sense. Like, I get it. If that's just their author's style, they would prefer to be in person, and they just want to wait until things are opened up again before they do a tour. That makes sense. I will say, just since we are talking about recording and such, I was part of the recent NABA event class, and something very interesting that came up is that when you're actually recording an event, not just Zooming, when you're recording the Zoom, and the author wants to have that link at the end, make sure you have a contract in place before you give them that footage so that you have control over where it goes. Because unfortunately, there was a woman who runs a small business who found her video as a link to use to buy the book on Amazon. So just be very, very cautious. Make sure you have a contract if they're going to record something prior to the event. Anyone have a recommendation for on-camera and speaker system? From Kathy. Jamil, do you use any other kinds of cameras or anything, or speakers? Because we just use the speaker that's on our laptop, honestly.
When you say speakers, do you mean like the speakers in your bookstore, or do you mean, when you say speakers, do you mean mic, or what do you mean?
Sorry.
Oh, mic. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, if you're using a laptop, or not a laptop, if you're using a phone, and then you don't have a very good sound on your phone, I have this, and it's a bullet mic. And though you can hook it up to like multiple cameras, you can hook it straight up to your, like a little handheld device. Where is my, here it is. So I have this little handheld device when I need to use like my phone. So if you have like really bad sounds on your, you can get attachments to where you can have your phone set up. I'm sorry, I don't have it set. I don't know why I don't have it set up. I should have had it set up for you guys. That holds the microphone in a shock situation, so it doesn't rattle when you're moving it around. They're really cheap. You can get them on, you can get them anywhere really. You could go to Walmart if you wanted to and buy one, I'm sure. The bullet mic, you probably want to go online for that because it might be pretty expensive if you don't get it online. What I can do is at the end, I can maybe tell everybody what I'm using. This is just a regular old Logitech, and this has an excellent mic in it. It's made for podcasting, so it's for people who maybe don't want to have like a full-blown setup where they have like a really fancy mic. It's got something called a PZM mic in there, and it's pressure zone mic, so it picks up things all over, like from really far away. And again, that webcam a few years ago was like $80, probably even cheaper now. And this bullet mic was probably about $40. So you don't have to spend a bunch of money.
Let's see, Carter says, have you created pandemic plans for any in-person events, including hybrids? So far, we've not done a lot of in-person. We've done mostly book signings in person as of right now. We have a smaller event space that is not incredibly well ventilated, so we've really only had one in there. And everyone was very spread out. We also did install those, the lights that are, it's for getting rid of germs and such in the air. And we have a bunch of air purifiers.
UV light.
Yes. So that's kind of what we've been doing, but we did end up pulling back on in-person things. We kind of had just started when things started to hit Delaware again. So we kind of did stop. So we really haven't done a ton yet. We're still a little hesitant. But as of right now, that's kind of where we've been using the library because they have bigger event spaces. So that is kind of where we've been doing our hybrid events in the meantime. Which has been really helpful.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. We have such a huge space and big, and everything is on wheels. We just move everything aside, but we still haven't done any big events. And we do have a big event coming up, and I'm just it's going to be in November. It's it's not really private, but it's like for birds. For the Audubon Society and Trees Atlanta. And it's basically those people who are just going to be showing up. And if it gets a little too big for its britches, I'm kind of thinking about going outdoors somewhere because that would be perfect for that, you know, with Janice Ray. So she's going to be talking about the outdoors, so maybe we should go outdoors. It won't be a hybrid. I don't think we're going to make it a hybrid because it's really an inspirational talk for those groups specifically. But yeah, I get exactly what you guys are talking about, where it's like you made all of these plans and then you had to pull back because of Delta variant started to hit us.
Yeah, we had a few authors who kind of delayed and delayed and delayed, going, it's still going to work. It's still going to happen. And then, of course, it's too complicated. So we did have to decide to pull those until the future. But let's see. Oh, going back to microphones and such, Mary Catherine says using headphones helps with background noise as well and makes it easier for attendees to hear you. Very, very true. Saw another one that was a very good point. Where did that go?
Yes, yeah, headphones, I tell you, it's very important. You see, I've got my fancy headphones on. I don't go anywhere without them.
Oh, and then Candace said you could always also stream to a private YouTube so it's not publicly posted. And honestly, yeah, if an author is feeling comfortable with that, then yeah.
I mean, you're the one that's in control of the recording. I mean, if you don't want to even post it in general, you don't have to post
That's
it.
true. Exactly.
Maybe you just want to put it in your own newsletter and it's only for your people.
Yes. We honestly, we don't record unless an author specifically tells us that they want us to, because for the most part, 90% of the time we've had authors say absolutely no recording. I'm okay doing a Zoom, but I do not want this anywhere afterwards. And that's completely fine. Looks like Carter has an event in NYC in November. Good luck. Hopefully by that point things will be a little bit calmer.
I will tell you, Carter, just make sure you don't feel weird about testing it a day before, testing it 30 minutes before, like keep testing it.
Let's see, Kathy is asking, is anyone getting a marketing benefit from posting on YouTube when the author is okay with it? I have not posted anything to YouTube. Have you, Jamil, or posted anywhere?
Yeah, but it was, a joint effort to help Zach, and I trusted him. So I didn't have a contract, but you sure made me realize that I should do that. That whole Amazon thing gives me shivers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's where that contract comes in handy, just to be safe. And even then, honestly, it's just, there's only so much the publisher can do if the author decides to post that on their own personal Instagram or something later. It's tough.
I put a lot of like videos before the pandemic in my newsletter, so
yeah,
in the future that's really probably where I would put them. And yeah, you're right, you kind of don't want to put things up, especially if like the author is kind of doing a tour around where you are. You don't want to like mess up anybody else's good day.
Very true. Yeah. Let's see.
And the thing is even though we're having to pull back a little bit, this is something that like we've been talking as a like booksellers in general have been talking about for years. Wow, we really got to get on this bandwagon of webinars and stuff, all the way back to the Skype days. So this is giving us all a chance to like really catch up on what we could be using this technology for. Like we're kind of forced into it, so we might as well drink the lemonade.
That's true. And I'm getting a couple people in the chat saying that having the YouTube views also helps. And hey, like if you have a growing brand on there and the author's okay with it and you're okay with it, I mean, if that's going to help you with future pitches as well, then yeah, absolutely.
Another possibility is to take a really good talk, and if you kind of know your way around and you have some time to kill, using something like Adobe Premiere to cut it all up and make something small and putting it on Instagram or Facebook. It doesn't have to be the whole talk. It can be like really cute excerpts and things that make it look interesting. Book talks can be very, very long. So the good thing about recording it and having it, even if you don't post it, is maybe you can use that footage for something else.
And it looks like there's a lot of people in the chat as well saying that they're in an area where people are absolutely pressing for in-person events, but still masks and keeping safety a priority. I think honestly, what it's come down to for us is we're in a retirement area, so there's an older population, and we just decided that for their safety, we're just going to pull back for the time being. We've also found that there are a lot of publishers who are dealing with authors that are very nervous about traveling. If you have an author, though, who is completely okay with it and wants to give it a shot, and you're in an area that's pushing for in-person, it's really your comfortability level, honestly. And I think it was Ashanti who's saying maybe boosters will start to make people feel a little bit more comfortable, and that's very possible. I guess at this point, we're all kind of just waiting to see what happens. Fingers crossed. Let's see.
For people, we have like a really big TV, and I'm willing to do this. I haven't set something up like this before, but I'm willing to maybe try to where an author that doesn't want to do anything and he kind of wants to do the virtual thing, maybe him being in conversation or her being in conversation with a local author that everybody likes, who would be here in the store, and that author could be on the TV in conversation through Zoom. I know a bookstore that's done that. I don't know how it went, but I would be interested to try to do something like that. I mean, there's quite a bit of possibility with it. You just got to jump into the water.
Yeah, this whole year, I'm pretty sure the motto is like trial and error. just jump into the water.
Yeah.
See what happens. Nikki's asking about any favorite easy video editing platforms for post-production.
Well,
we haven't done a ton, have you?
I'm not good with easy, or I use Premiere is what I like to use. I think there's is iMovie free? If you're
I
on
thought it was. I think for Mac computers too, if you have a Mac laptop, it comes with it, I believe, or it did back when I had one.
I know somebody here who worked here who really wasn't very good with that stuff, but he actually made quite a bit with it, and he did a good job with it. So I want to say that might be an easy platform if you have Apple products. iMovie. Let's see. I can't think of anything. I mean, I use the Adobe thing for everything. I have to say TikTok also has a pretty impressive little, I know that you can't really do a lot, but if you're doing something short, TikTok has a cute little video, has a lot of fun tools that you can turn a lot of different things. I mean, I have even in a commercial that I have shot, I have gone and done some things in TikTok and turned it around and put it into Premiere because I really like something about it. Maybe the filter or something I liked about it.
Oh, that's smart. I didn't even think about TikTok. I don't give TikTok nearly enough credit, honestly. I should look into that.
InShot. You use InShot. Is InShot the problem with Adobe Premiere is it's expensive, and so is After Effects. So I use Adobe After Effects and Premiere, and yeah, it's not cheap. Candace, is it cheap, or how expensive is InShot?
Actually,
InShot is a free app.
Oh, that's great.
You can pay for it and get more stuff, but you can use it for free.
Awesome.
That's good to know. I should know these questions because people ask them all the time and I never know the answer.
And then Carol mentioned in the chat too, which is just a really good point for anyone who's making those YouTube videos. You can also create an opener and a closer for what you post. And you can also put those brands and a buy link on that YouTube video, and that makes a lot of sense.
I do tickets through our own website. Our website has tickets. Basically, if you buy the book, in our website. That's the ticket, but we can also add more money if we want the ticket to be more expensive. So we're lucky, but you know, for some of that virtual stuff, when you're trying to just gather information without doing a ticket, I would use Eventbrite.
We'll jump on that bandwagon as well. Eventbrite has been the easiest for us. Typically, we don't do a ton of bundles because we do work with the library, so our events do have to be free. But for the handful of ones that we've done where it has had to be bundled and they have had to do a ticket, including the book, Eventbrite has been incredibly simple. And it gives you all of the emails and everything kind of, it sends it right to you, which is awesome. So you just have it all in one spot. Super, super easy.
Yeah, for live events, you don't necessarily have to do any kind of production. You can just upload it. The webinar, I think, gives you the ability to like put it on like a Facebook Live event too, right? I think it has that capability.
I think so.
I haven't tried it.
We haven't tried that either, but I believe you're right.
But you don't, so you don't have to do production. I'm really more thinking like if you want to cut it up and use some of it for something else, but you certainly don't have to do that.
Yeah. Let's see. Nikki says wevideo.com is also really quick editing.
Okay, so there's a question that's a good question, and this is something that I'm really more trying to figure out as I'm going along. Being able to simultaneously engage both your in-person and your virtual attendees. So here's a big problem. If your camera's too far away from the person talking, it seems like they're not engaging whatsoever to the virtual audience, and that gets boring. So I set up the camera very specifically to be close, so it seems like he's also engaging with Zoom. I implore them to talk to the Zoom audience. Also, I like to use my camera setup because I can swivel when somebody is asking a question, and they can kind of see what's going on. It's so strange because you're used to this Zoom thing that we're doing right now, and we're all engaged. But when you are watching something where there's a whole audience, you just kind of expect it to be like TV, where it's got to be multiple angles, and you want to know what's going on. What are these voices behind the camera? So you really have to try to be like kind of aware, like maybe I'm going to zoom in right here, or maybe I'm going to swivel around to make it more interesting. Otherwise, they would get bored, like I would. I think about how bored I would be and what would make me stick around.
And yeah, Amanda is saying that she has the bookseller read questions from the online audience during the live Q&A, so they do have some engagement. And I think that's, yeah, if you don't have the swivel possibility, I think that's probably your best bet. It's just, it's tough. If you're not physically there in person and you're on Zoom, it is tough. But yeah, if you have a way to have the author say it to the Zoom camera, that would be great. But yeah, as long as you're also asking, don't forget about your Zoom audience as well.
Yeah, and I tell you, this is very, very important. When you are getting your author ready, you need to tell them if I don't really have this much of a problem, but just in case there is some sort of issue with somebody not speaking very well, like loud enough for my camera or my webcam to pick it up, I ask him, please repeat the question before you answer it, like no matter what it is. And that will ensure that the people at home won't get frustrated about what the heck he's talking about, or she. I keep saying he because it's the one that I did was a he. But I can't wait to do more she's. I would love to do she's or theys.
Okay, let's see, Carter. She says, have you found ways to integrate in-store customers into coming to virtual events? Do you invest in more signage? It seems like the steps between being in the store to the website is definitely a barrier to attendance. Yeah, I mean, basically we have signs up in the store. We use Canva and we just make fun little store signs and we print them and we put them wherever we can in the store. We also have a full event display towards the front of the store. So when you walk in, that's the first thing that you see. We have flyers on that table that they can take with them. This is exactly when events are going to happen. We put them in the local paper. We put them in any of the surrounding papers that we can. Like we try the Philly Inquirer, Washington Post finally has gotten our, finally we have their attention finally. And so they do tweet us every now and then if there's a bigger author that we're going to be speaking with. But even then, we have a bunch of starbursts and such in books so that they can see kind of, when people are coming virtually. Every now and then we will still have a customer who shows up to the store in person during that time. There's really only so much that you can do. We send reminder emails, as much as you can to remind them that it's virtual. It's tough. It absolutely is a barrier for sure.
I do a lot of design work, and it's so funny that lately I put like in person in such big letters now because it's like such a surprise. It's like, oh, surprise, this is actually in person. Can you believe it? It's in person. So that is a funny little quirky thing that never thought that I would be having to put.
Right, seriously. It's hysterical. Let's see, Carol says that she went to a great event at Mysterious Books for TJ Newman where the camera was close enough for her to feel like she was there. And they did Zoom questions as well. Yep. I think that definitely makes a difference if the camera is close.
I put for my hybrid, we have like this big blow up and then we have like other books. And I would often swivel around. So it's not like it's the same picture for, 45 minutes. And I don't know, it just seemed more interesting to me. But like I said, I don't know how to remedy other than getting close, just like we're all saying.
Oh, so Carol then also said that there are times when, weather's bad or something and people don't have to go anywhere, that they're suddenly very excited that it's going to be online. Yeah. And honestly too, like we've had some really good luck with certain authors like John Grisham. He never would have come to Delaware. And we had 1,000 people sign up. It was one of our biggest events this past year. And that's all because it was virtual. So, I mean, there is a silver lining. It's just, it's frustrating when everyone is so used to in person, but there is a silver lining. There are plenty of authors who are now going, wow, I can connect with so many people across the world. And that's kind of a cool thing too. Virtually we actually did sell quite a few. I think it was over 100. In person obviously was still much higher. But we had people tune in from all over the world. It was great because he put it on his own Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And so he helped promote and also I think as well, Matthew McConaughey gave the introduction, not for our own event, but he had a pre-recorded thing that we were able to put out for everyone. So I'm sure that also kind of got a few people interested.
That's still for a virtual event. That's still a lot. That's a good sales.
It was very successful. We've had some virtual events that have not been as successful with bigger name authors. It just, that one in particular, people were very engaged. And we did that one on Zoom. He was actually comfortable with Zoom meeting, and he wanted to take questions as they came. And so it was, Zoom meeting. We didn't even have to go to webinar. It was great.
Yeah, that is really good.
Yeah.
One thing that I find really, really worked out well is for virtual is Mary Kay Andrews did this thing with where like the first 100 would get like a gift box, and it just came with like really great, cute little things that had to do with the book. And I mean, hundreds upon hundreds of people bought the book just hoping to get that box. And in fact, I mean, it sold out in less than a day. We had over 100 in less than a day. People were very disappointed they were not part of the 100. But it gives you an idea of what can happen with a virtual event, because we all know how bad sales can be for a virtual event.
I've also had authors just try to keep people engaged online and to see if they would stay until the end for questions. They said that they would give away freebies and do like a little raffle with whoever typed a question into the chat. So that's kind of a fun little thing, but that also just depends on the author and if they have things to give away and if that's part of their deal. See, we're coming up on the last like 3 minutes or so. Does anyone else have any questions related to hybrids? No, keep them coming, Carter. Thank you. Have you considered off-site spaces?
Yes, we in fact were a training ground for this last event. Am I muted? No. For a big thing that the Audubon Society is going to be doing for their Bird Fest, that's also a hybrid. They just didn't even know about hybrids. And so we are going to be doing a few things with them for that. So we have been thinking about doing like offsite stuff. Like I said, I was wanting to do maybe an outdoor event with Janice Ray, though. We will probably record it, but it won't be a hybrid. But man, I would totally be up for doing something like that. Of course, the outdoors is a little bit harder to deal with sound wise, and I guess weather conditions.
Definitely interesting with acoustics and all that good stuff if you're dealing with outdoor spaces and wind and all that loveliness. We have not done any hybrid events offsite except for the library as of now. I think it really just depends on what the size of the space is that you're looking at. Also, like if we've done events before at a restaurant in town where it's a dinner event, they can buy a book, and it also for a couple of dollars extra, it also comes with like a drink or a meal or something like that. Typically, we've not done anything virtually that way yet, but I'm sure it's possible. I think it just kind of depends on how loud of the space you're in. Restaurants can be very noisy. That would be difficult maybe. But yeah, if you're looking at something offsite, just definitely walk around the space yourself first and just kind of see how you feel and if you think it would be doable with something like Zoom.
If you're going to be doing a restaurant, my suggestion is, I know we don't have very much time, so I'll say this really quickly. Make sure that it's not like in the restaurant where people are talking. Again, sound is hard to control in that sort of situation. And if you the levels can change the more people that come in, because people absorb sound. So you may not be able to hear questions in the back of the room, even if it's a small room, because people can really, in a small little area where people are, there's more people there. I mean, it's actually why, you may not know this, but it's actually why there's like often a lot of velvet in like spaces where there's recording, where there's concrete walls. They often use AV velvet, and that's actually to help the sound from bouncing around. So if you actually have that problem in your bookstore with the bouncing of the sound, you can put cloth up. It doesn't have to be velvet, it could just be curtains. And that can be very helpful at controlling your sound.
That's very smart. That's awesome. Oh, at a brewery. That does sound really fun.
I know. Sign
That
me up.
sounds awesome. Yeah, if you can find a way to make that work, absolutely. All right, so I think we are wrapping on up. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Appreciate it. And yeah, if you have any other questions, I'm sure there's a way to get in touch with us and we can answer whatever you need. But yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good one.